What's up everybody, SuperDurks fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2015 BMW M235i with xDrive. Huge thanks to Brandon for allowing me to review his very sweet M235i here for you guys today. So about the 2 Series here, well, I actually really love these things. You know, it's kind of going back to the E46 generation kind of with the size of these, and I think that I love the proportions, I love the looks of them. I mean, you know, from the sharp headlights there to, you know, just the shorter back end that just definitely makes it look a little smaller and a little more compact and I think angry looking than, you know, the more flowing other, you know, longer BMWs. But this one, especially in the blue color, looks really, really sharp here, and it's got the Dinan lowering springs as well as also, you know, a few of the carbon fiber accents like the carbon fiber wrapped roof, and you also have a carbon fiber rear spoiler and rear diffuser, and overall it's just a great looking little coupe. Right, for the interior of the 2015 BMW M235i, well, it's a very nice place to be. I love this red interior. I love the red interiors in BMWs. They always do such a nice job, and it's such a nice shade of red. But anyway, first things first, sitting down in these seats, they're really nice seats. You know, they definitely feel sporty here, of course, being the M235i model. But, you know, really healthy side bolsters here, you know, that really support your torso very well. Not too tight, but, you know, not too loose, really just right seats. And the thigh support's a little bit wider here, but still, you know, feels pretty good. And the seats are a tad on the firmer side, but they're still, you know, pretty comfortable so far here. And overall, just really great seats. Next is the steering wheel in the M235i, which is really basically the same steering wheel out of the M3 and the M4s. A really great steering wheel. It has a perfect 9-3 grip, very cool and bold 10 and 2 notches. And this one being the automatic, of course, has prominent paddles here as well behind the wheel. And those feel good as well with metal and some plastic, but mostly metal here. And I love all the other little metal accents you have on the steering wheel here, and just nice smooth leather, very high quality, and just a really nice wheel. Next is the gauges in the M235i, which are, you know, your typical BMW gauges for the most part. They do have the nice red accents to them here though for the M model, and look very, very nice. And you have the digital portion there down below that, you know, gives you some basic information in addition to reminding you you're in an M235i. Unfortunately though, the owner has told me how there isn't any kind of oil temp or, you know, coolant temp kind of deal going on, so you don't really know how warm the engine is, unfortunately. So that's the only downside, I guess, to these gauges. But otherwise, though, just nice and simple, but still very cool looking gauges. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, you of course have BMW's typical very slim widescreen, high resolution glossy display up top here. That's of course controlled by the iDrive controller, and you know, works really well. Again, basic same stuff as all the other iDrive systems here in the BMWs. Very quick, snappy, very sharp graphics, and you know, the split screen effect is very nice to have your map and also have other things displayed. And of course, like the other M models here, that does have the performance gauges as well there to show you how much horsepower and torque you're making, which is always a cool little feature to have there. And so yeah, really enjoy that screen there. And then coming down to the rest of the stuff here in the center, you have your typical volume knob that you get in the BMWs, and then you have your climate controls, which are again very, very similar to all the other BMWs here, with the orange backlighting there for the little digital portion, and all very straightforward and easy to use. As far as storage space in the M235i, it's pretty good. So you have a nice large map pocket here on the door with multiple different compartments, including a bottle holder, so great to have that. Coming over to the center here, you do have this very small little cubby at first that, you know, isn't really usable for much aside from a pack of gum or something like that. And then you do have 2 large cup holders here that also, there's a power outlet in that same area. Coming back here, you have a center armrest that's nice and softly padded with this very expensive feeling leather, and then you open that up and you have a center console that's fairly shallow, but you know, can fit most smartphones, things like that. You have a USB jack in there as well as an auxiliary jack, and so overall, you know, a pretty usable space there. Of course, it'd be nice if there was more USB jacks, and for the newer models they did put a USB jack here out in the open, not hidden by this armrest, but still, you know, good to have USB jack at all. Backseat space in the M235i is pretty decent actually. For a coupe, I'd say it's in line with a lot of the other coupes. I'd say it's about the same as maybe the backseat of a Mustang or something like that. You know, so I mean, definitely usable in a pinch, especially for, you know, smaller people, things like that. You wouldn't want to use it every day. Trunk space in the M235i is pretty good here for a coupe. You know, pretty standard with a lot of the other coupes of this size. Very usable, you know, for fitting two people's suitcases and stuff like that with ease. And that's basically all you're going to use it for. And as you can see, the owner here even has a full-size tire there that fits very easily with room to spare, of course. And so overall, pretty usable trunk. All right, so start up and go for a drive. You know, BMWs here all have a very nice key fob that they share. And so yeah, it's got a good way to it. Of course, it's keyless entry, push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. And you might be able to hear right off the bat, this one is a lot louder than stock, and that is because this one has a full exhaust system on it, in addition to also having a tune on it as well, so it's making quite a bit more power than a stock M235i would, but it just sounds great. Alright, so setting off in the 2015 M235i xDrive. So first thing you notice, well, this one has that awesome exhaust note here that sounds sweet. But otherwise though, visibility is actually very good here in the M235i. The hood drops down pretty nicely so you hardly even see it. And then view out of the sides is great, of course, with the coupe, and the B-pillar is way far back there, so very easy to see. And then view out of the back is great as well, actually, with a large rear window there. So for a coupe, this actually has very good visibility. Other things you note though, you know, it's actually a fairly smooth ride here, even with these lowering springs on it. I mean, we aren't on punishing roads really or anything like that, but so far it actually feels pretty good here. We have the drive mode here in sport, and even in the sport mode here, the steering feels fairly light, but has a good feeling to it. And so yeah, overall, just a nice thing even at low speeds. Alrighty, so let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. Here we go. Alright, so pretty quick. The transmission was kind of doing its own thing there, but it sounds fantastic too. M235i here with xDrive usually has 330 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque from its 3-liter twin turbocharged inline-6 motor here. But this one has a tune as well as a full exhaust. So this one actually was dynoed at 340 wheel horsepower and 415 wheel torque. So it's a good amount quicker, and honestly, now these from the factory are 4.5 seconds 0 to 60. This one is probably more like 4 seconds, and so it's probably at least as fast, if not faster, than an M2 with these mods. And so, man, this thing feels great. Other things you notice, the brake pedal definitely has a good amount of travel to it, but once you get into the meat of it, then it does feel really good. And this exhaust though is fantastic. Love the way it sounds, and this motor, at least with this tune here, it's got a really nice rip up towards the top. But then if we go ahead and upshift here a little bit, you still have a good amount of power down low, but it has a little bit more of that traditional turbocharged kind of feel to it that is really, really enjoyable. It also, though, feels fairly refined here once we're settled down a little bit. You know, you really don't hear too much wind noise, and it feels very composed and refined and typical BMW fashion, like you would expect from a $50,000 coupe. And so, you know, it's just all the same great perks you get out of the M4 almost, just in a smaller, more affordable package. All right, a couple little corners here now. All right, so it definitely has a little bit of a sway to it there, but I love the turning though. It definitely feels nice and sharp, and it's a little looser than I was expecting, honestly, but it's fun and it's playful in that regard. We do have all-season tires here as well, so it's not the grippiest of setups, especially here on a colder day like today, but it's definitely fun. Now these aren't the lightest though, that is for sure. They weigh around just under 3,700 pounds. So you know, it's a fairly heavy coupe, especially when you compare it to, you know, stuff like Camaros and stuff like that that are only 150 pounds heavier. But it's okay, because it's because you have this all-wheel drive system, which gives you this really great grip, and it also, you know, has just, you know, the 8-speed automatic and all that kind of stuff that, you know, make it a little bit heavier here. But it's like, oh man, I wish there wasn't any traffic, because this would be fantastic to just go bonkers in. Another tight corner here. That exhaust is fantastic too. This thing is a ride. I love the mods the owner's done too, because this exhaust, anytime you add an exhaust with all those extra pops and crackles and, you know, all that fun, it just makes it way more dramatic, and you really can't go wrong with doing something like this. And it's really not overbearing. It doesn't really sound too loud or obnoxious or anything like that. It's a really nice blend, but this thing is it's way more of a blast than I was expecting it to be. I think also that's also because of the tune, but it's just, oh man, this thing is just fantastic. And let's see about another acceleration, shall we? I love the way that it upshifts with authority too. It's just banging into the gears. It's not overly rough or anything, but it gives you a nice little snap to make it really feel sporty. But just cruising now at highway speeds though, you can really see how great and how well-rounded, I guess, the M235i is. It's just very docile whenever you want it to be. It's very comfortable, and even in sport mode here, you know, the suspension gets firmed up a little bit, but honestly, it doesn't seem that firm. It's still very comfortable and actually fairly luxurious as well. So honestly, I could see how this could even go a little bit more extreme, and I think that's probably what the M2 of course offers, but this is still great, you know, for something that's livable. It doesn't have an overly firm suspension, overly heavy steering or anything like that, and it's really ideal. I like it a lot. Other thing to note, this transmission is, you know, the ZF 8-speed that shifts extremely quickly, and you know, downshifts are immediate, upshifts are immediate. It has a little bit of a mind of its own sometimes there, even when you're in manual mode, but otherwise, it's just, I love the ZF 8-speed. It's fantastic in every single car company that uses it. Every single one I've used, they've always been great, and it's no exception here in the M235i. And or even any kind of 2 Series before today, and now I can see, I think honestly this is my pick. I love the M4, and the M3 is great if you need 4 doors and stuff, but you know, for someone that, you know, loves coupes and you want something smaller and you know, lighter, this is a really great blend, and it's not quite as hard-edged as the other M cars as far as the suspension setups and all that kind of stuff, and so it straddles a nice middle ground, I think. And you know, there's so many people that even want stuff like an all-wheel drive, high horsepower BRZ, and I kind of view this as a nicer version of that kind of idea, you know, of an all-wheel drive, you know, high horsepower coupe that looks great. You can even get it in blue here, just like a BRZ, and it's really fantastic. But I'm going to drive around for a little while longer here, and I'll come back and give you some final impressions. Alright, so I've been driving the M235i here for a while longer, and man, this thing is fantastic. I absolutely adore it, especially with these mods here. It just makes it so much more fun. It's not crazy over the top, it's not super wild, but it really helps to just add so much to this car. And I mean, I'm sure they're fun from the factory as well, but this exhaust, it sounds actually really similar to an F-Type, and it's got those crackles and pops like an F-Type does, so it's just a really nice sound to it, and that always adds so much to a car when you have a good sound to it. It's just, like I said, it's a very well-rounded thing. Like I said, since this isn't a full-on M car, you know, it's not quite as hard-edged as the you know, M4 and stuff like that, which when you're carving up corners, I mean, yeah, I think an M4 feels more competent in the corners, but then again, it should, because it's, you know, an M model and it's also more expensive. But this still feels fantastic. I think, you know, whenever I go around corners, especially here with the all-wheel drive version, I think it pushes a little more than I would like. And I've heard others say that, you know, the all-wheel drive version, you do give up a little bit of the ideal weight distribution that the rear-wheel drive version has. So I think, you know, that's just one of the little sacrifices you make here with the all-wheel drive, is just a little more push. And, you know, obviously you have a little bit more of a weight penalty here, which is easily overcome with your right foot though. But yeah, it's a really great thing. I think the only improvements I would do to, you know, further enhance the suspension is maybe some stickier tires and some thicker sway bars would go a long way to really making it feel even more flat in the corners. But I really like the way this is though, because I mean, although it does push a little bit, it's very communicative, and it definitely, it's very progressive in the way that it pushes and stuff, so you know where your limits are pretty early on, and you know how to trust the car and what you can, what you can't do in it, you know, pretty easily. And so, but yeah, so I mean, that's basically all my thoughts here. Other things though, you know, typical BMW fashion, throttle response is razor sharp. The brakes, the more that I use them here, the more I have confidence in them, and they feel really nice. The steering also is really just the perfect weight. At first I thought it could use a little more weight to it, but the longer that I've been driving, the more that I actually really appreciate it. It's not trying to be overly crazy heavy or anything like that. It just feels naturally good. And there isn't a ton of feeling through the steering wheel, but the feeling you do have is good. And like I said, it just works. It's just accurate, precise, and just really enjoyable to use. And yeah, I'm very, very impressed with this thing. Plenty of power, lots of grip, just overall a really, really impressive thing. So anyway, huge thanks once again to Brandon for allowing me to review his M235i here for you guys. Let me know your thoughts on these. Like I said, I think it's a great alternative, especially if you want something that's a coupe, high horsepower, but you want that all-wheel drive. This is really the best of all worlds, and and I love the way that it looks and everything about it. It's just a really great package altogether, and it's you know, a little bit more expensive, you know, being you know, BMW and things like that, but you know, compared to, you know, fully loaded other, you know, models of, you know, Camaros and stuff like that, it's still actually not that expensive. You know, this one, as equipped, the owner said was around $50,000, and of course options and all that are subjective and, you know, up to the individual buyer. But you know, I think it's actually a lot of car for 50,000 bucks, really. And so yeah, like I said, I really, really enjoy it. Once again, thanks to Brandon. Let me know your thoughts on the M235i, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.